All right, guys. Finally getting back into the shop, make a little video. It is December 27th, so a couple days after Christmas. It was a super nice Christmas. All my kids came home. Their boyfriend and girlfriends came home, which was awesome. I don't know. Older I get, the more I really like having them around and visiting. I mean, I know every parent says that, but you just appreciate it more. You just value the time, I guess is the way I'd put it. But anyway, I'm back in the shop, and you can see the RZR's kind of torn apart a little bit. I've already established that the front A-arms, driver's side is cracked, passenger side is slightly bent, and the ball joints are showing some wear. So we got this box, and we got this box to go along with this guy. What is all this stuff? Well, I'll open it up and show you. All right, next up, we've got some ball joints here. These are all the same. I already opened up one of these. Pretty much how they come, bubble wrapped package. The ball joint wrapped up here in some brown paper. And this is the Keller ball joint right here. It's a little bit different. I don't know if I can show you this. I think I can. Let me get you off here. A stock ball joint presses in from the top down into here. Oh, well, there's another crack. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, this presses in from the top, pushes down into that A-arm. Same thing with the bottom. These go from the bottom and press up to the top. So these are going to go, I mean, not like I'm an expert with Keller ball joints or anything like that. He's got a couple of really good videos that are way better than I'm going to be able to show you here, but so this is going to go in. This is your ball joint adjustment. This is why these are considered adjustment or adjustable. So this is going to go in, and then this gets pushed in. So I'm going to quote unquote press this in, this piece right here. And then once it's pressed in, this gets screwed in from the top like this. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I'm sure you will. Eventually that ball joint is going to straighten out as I screw in this adjuster. This is just got an Allen screw. And once you start getting it in there, boom, you can see this is already getting hard. So you would just back it off a little bit so there's no play. Then you push this boot on over this part here to kind of keep all the dirt out, which of course, you know, it's going to be difficult because I'm on camera, but I assure you this is not difficult to do. Let's just push this back. But anyway, once you get this on, you're going to put a zip tie on it. There we go. He gives you a couple zip ties in the bag. And then this guy right here, I think I've got a needle fitting. You just push your grease in here. And at this point, this thing is a quote sealed unit. It's serviceable. You can adjust it. You know, if you start to get wear on this joint, you just tighten this. You don't want it so this can't move, but you also don't want it so loose that there's a ton of slop in here. So that's what's nice about the Keller ball joint. Pretty excited to get these on the machine. And we've got 4 of them in this container. Or 4 of them in the box. All right, we got a bump steer elimination tie rod set from Shock Therapy here. This one I didn't open, came right before Christmas. All right, so here We've got our fancy dancy shock therapy tie rod ends, or tie rods. Inner ball joint. So this is the part that's going to attach right into your steering rack. And the bump steer elimination kit comes with the tool. This is probably the most important part of the kit. I mean, they do send you the QR code to get to the video, which I've watched. But this is going to give you, based on your change in ride height, this card will tell you exactly how to do your spacers. So that's pretty cool. You got little pictures on the back. So this is, I'm pretty excited about this kit. And when I install it, I'll show you kind of what my results are before and after measuring the bump steer. And then also when we start riding in the spring, you know, what the difference is in feeling the machine. I talked to only one other guy that's done this. I know I have a fair amount of bump steer in my machine, so I'm pretty excited about this. I'm hoping this does truly eliminate it. If it does, I'll be as loud as I can be. If it doesn't, well, unfortunately for shock therapy, I'd be just as loud with that as well. I think we got some stickers if I know them, and we do. It looks like a couple of stickers here, which is nice. Oh, these are new stickers. These are clear. Ooh, I like these. Okay, good. Basically, they're clear stickers, so they'll go on everything and only show their logo, which is kind of nice. All right, get rid of this guy. All right, we got the star. We've got some S3 Powersports replacement A-arms here. Appears to be packaged very well, which I'm thankful for because there's a huge hole in the box right here, but I think we're okay. Woo, they're the right color. These can come in a multitude of colors, per se. Tie rod ends, or excuse me, sway bar ends, sorry about that. These are their dry lube bushings, so they don't have any lubrication, which they highly recommend if you don't have Zerks to get these, so I did. They package these things really well. So well, I'm having trouble finding the tape. Hold on here. Let's do this. So we just sped up the video during this unboxing or unpackaging to kind of save you guys from the boring stuff, but S3 did a great job packaging up each individual parts. There's a nice hole in the box that must have occurred in shipping, but I get them unboxed and they look absolutely fantastic. Wow. All right, so this is the lower one. If I had to guess, I'd say it's driver's side, lower. The color on it, phenomenal. Ball joint's going to get pressed in right here. Bushings are going to go in here. Wow. Oh, I found one little chip, one little flaw already. They got to go back. It's a joke. You're going to take off the powder coating when you put in the ball joints anyway, I would suspect. And that's likely where they hang this part from. As far as build quality, the welds look, I mean, if you don't know who S3 Powersports is, you probably don't mod your machine much, which is totally fine. I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, if you don't mod your machine, it's terrible. But if you do mod your machine, they make some really good parts. I haven't used them a lot, but I've seen them a lot. I've never been in a position where I had a machine that was nice enough to put their stuff on. And I've always run stock unless something breaks, and it just turned out it broke this time. But man, I'll tell you what, this is a pretty stout piece. I wouldn't say it's light. It'll be curious to see how much it weighs compared to the stock one, but look at this guy. Here, let me take this off. It's probably the best way. I mean, obviously you've got a thick piece here versus you come over here and you look at this guy. I mean, it's pretty thin. I'm not saying it's not strong enough, but it's definitely different. Definitely less stout. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and unbox the rest of these. I'll save you guys the pain of watching me do each one when I edit this. So here we are unpackaging the next A-arm. I believe it's the driver's side upper. Just making sure it's the right one. You know, the shock mounts are in the right spot. The sway bar tabs are in the right spot. Nothing says you're going to have a bad day than unpackaging all these, and it's not even the right part for your machine. And you certainly don't want to take apart your machine until you're certain they're the right parts. I'm inspecting all the welds and the paint. Everything looks great. I'm sure people are cringing that I'm just setting them on top of each other and everything else. My machine's got a ton of battle scars, and I'm not too worried about scratching up a little bit of powder coat. But when they come from S3, they look great. All right, so we're off to the passenger side. I'm just going to pull these things apart and unpackage them, make sure, you know, they're the right side. You know, again, same thing. Tabs are in the right spot. Make sure it looks like the correct part for my machine. This definitely looks like a passenger upper. Looks good there. Pulling out the passenger lower, I hope. Turns out I did. And getting it all ready. Checking over the welds, looking for defects. And I'm not seeing any. S3 did a great job. And I love these parts. All right. I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. These companies selling custom parts like this that are custom powder coated, they got kind of a tough gig. I mean, a customer receives a part, and if there's just like, you know, the slightest imperfection in the paint, they're likely calling them up and bitching and complaining. Yet the minute that part's on their machine and they go off-road, there's going to be chips and scratches, and, you know, really all you care about is the part not failing, you know, at that point. But I'm sure the S3 and all these other people deal with a lot of crap with, you know, little paint imperfections, but I'm not seeing any. I mean, this thing, all of them, I've gone through all of them. This is the passenger side lower. This is a passenger side upper. Everything looks really, really good. I see one little pit in the weld right down there. That's not, you know, that big of a deal. That's a tough spot to weld, and it's certainly not a failure point. Yeah, these look really good. These look really good. Well, anyway, the packaging job was quality. I don't know how much of this you can see. That's literally just from these A-arms. So I'd say they did pretty good. Never mind my garage. It's a mess. Well, now I guess I got to get rid of some of these boxes and start throwing some parts on. Okay, so we took apart the ball joint. Anyone who's not ever done that before, I mean, this boot's going to go over here. Cover that. Just pop that off. Slide this out, because you don't, I mean, I don't want to pound on that. I mean, that's a good seal. So I always take mine apart. I'm going to take this, sits in there, and then we need to take it over here to the press and push it in. I haven't quite got that set up, but I'll get the press set up and I'll show you that next. So pressing in parts is not anything that's really hard. You want to support the piece that you're pushing into from the bottom so that you're not putting any stress on the joint. You're literally supporting right where you're pressing into. So I put a socket on the bottom that's the exact same size as that joint or that hole where I need to press the ball joint in. That's large enough so the inside diameter of the ball joint piece can press into it. I put another socket, roughly the outside diameter of the ball joint so that I'm pushing down squarely on it. And then you just got to take your time. It's real easy. It's kind of clumsy. You need a third hand, or, I'm sure some people have air-powered or hydraulic-powered presses. This is a manual bottle jack type press from Harbor Freight. It's cheap, gets the job done. But sometimes the setup, you need kind of three hands. So you'll see me adjust because I go in and I'm starting to push down at a little bit of an angle, and I need to make an adjustment and straighten it out, which not a big deal, but, it's done. And I get it in there and everything looks great. And that's all that really matters. You want to make sure you're pressing it in. If you start noticing you're off on an angle, stop what you're doing, reset up, and you're good to go. And if these don't press in easy, I guarantee you're doing something wrong. Just take your time and set your machine up different. I've set mine up 2 different times until I got, what I considered right. All right. There you see the finished lower for the passenger side and the upper for the passenger side. They go in opposite on the Keller ball joints. I think what I'm going to do is probably totally cheat and pretend like I'm some super awesome mechanic. And I think I'll do one side of the machine off camera and get it all looking nice. And then I'll do the other side maybe as a time lapse and kind of, not as a how-to. I mean, God, if you follow what the hell I do to figure out how to fix your machine, you're in trouble. I am a shade tree mechanic at best. But, this way I can show one side kind of done and then show the other side, and you can kind of see there's a way different girth to these ball joints as well. There's a lot of people that make ball joints and everybody claims to be the best. I run kryptonite bearings. I would have run kryptonite ball joints, to be honest with you, but their lead times are out there. I do run their wheel bearings, and they've been great since I put them in. I was going through heavy-duty Polaris ones about every 500 miles. Like I said, my wife likes to ride in the mud. So it's kind of one of those things, they just get dirty, and I don't care how much grease you pump into them, they're going to fail. Yeah, as usual, I don't follow my plans at all. I just set up the GoPro on a time lapse, sitting on a tripod next to me. Disassembly on the driver's side started off really smooth. I didn't want to take off my shock. I just kind of strung it up there with some zip ties, not a big deal. Cutting off the rivets that hold the brake line down on the A-arm. I just used a little cutting wheel on a grinder. You can use a die grinder. You can use whatever you want. It's just kind of what I used. Pulling off the caliper, set it off to the side. I later decided that was a pain in the ass and in my way, and I just kind of stuck it up on top the front diff. Actually, no, I was on top of the steering rack. But disassembly went well. I'm just loosening up the ball joint connections now, and trying to get those off. Didn't really have any trouble with any of this stuff, and all was going well. You can see the upper one just popped off. I'm getting ready to get the lower one off so I can remove that hub completely. And again, everything's going smooth sailing here. I didn't really have any trouble until I got to this front axle, and I've always had some trouble with the driver's side on the front end, and I'm starting to feel there's something going on with this axle. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's definitely got some worn parts in it, and I can't tell which end it's on. But it ended up being the CV joint at the front diff. It was definitely starting to fall apart, and it was evidence when I started removing the axle. But anyway, so here I'm just removing the front upper A-arm, and then I move on to the lower A-arm. This front one was kind of a bitch to get off. That particular bolt is really challenging. I invented, I think, 2 or 3 new swear words, 4,000 cuts on my right arm and hand. But I got it eventually. I decided to pull the front winch off and the front valence cover just so I could have access to these other bolts. I don't know how else you do it. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm going to here shortly. I think now I'm starting to realize, how the hell am I going to get to that bolt? Okay, genius. You got to pull off the front winch, which, to be honest, takes 5 minutes. It's just really not that big a deal. I started off just kind of hanging it off to the side, and then I just disconnected it completely and moved it off the machine, which, not a big deal. Definitely worth it just to get access to that. I just didn't realize, how easy it was to just completely remove it at this point, but I went ahead and did it here shortly. So time lapse quit. I got the lower front A-arm off. Went to pull the axle out, and the joint at the front diff failed, and the axle came apart. And that axle cup is, thanks to mud and water and sand and grime, it is in there. So time to break out the welder. So I don't know if you can see the haze in the shop. This is what victory looks like. Never mind the welds, it's been used a bit. They're ugly, but it's out. Oh my God, I've probably changed, I don't know, maybe 16 of these things. Never had one that stubborn. All right, so we got everything pulled off. Remove the tie rod. Put a little bit of grease inside there. I know there's, tons of people that tell you, oh no, you should not do that. Well, I do. This is a how I did it, not a how you should do it. But anyway, yeah, I think I'll set you up on the tripod, do a time lapse, and show you how to put her, or what it looks like from side to side. I still haven't touched this side, so I'm still looking to get you that before and after. But here we go. All right, so we're finally putting new parts on. The S3 A-arms were snug. I don't know if whatever machine they measured had a wider tab spacing, but my tabs were definitely not bent. My frame's not bent. And it was just kind of tough getting those A-arms in. I mean, I got them in, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I had to do a bunch of bending or anything like that, but just definitely a snug fit. On this upper one, the bolt towards the firewall, be real careful putting that in and make sure you have a wrench on there good. It goes from the front of the machine, the bolt slides in towards the firewall, and the nut goes on the firewall side of that connection. And it's just really tough to get a wrench in there. So just make sure you're taking your time, you're doing it right. I finally get them in. We get everything kind of tightened up here. It was a little bit of, a little bit of work, but not anything too serious. And then I'm going to get to the point where we're going to slide the axle in coming up here pretty quick. The axle is, again, I put a little bit of grease on the joint that goes into the diff, so a little bit of grease on that axle stub, and it just kind of pops right in there. I use a dead blow. You can use kind of whatever you want to use to smack the end. I've always found a dead blow works well because it's not metal on metal, but you could use a brass hammer or whatever you want to use. Lube up the hub side next, and I'm going to slide the hub on, and then I'm going to take the A-arms and the ball joints and attach them to the hub, which is what's going on here. All right, here we go. All right, so the driver's side is finished. You can kind of see the difference. You've got passenger side untouched. Promised you guys I'd show you one side only. This is the driver's side. Again, that's a Rhino 2.0 axle. Other axle was sketchy. You could hear it. Those are S3 2-inch forward high clearance A-arm kit. That is the shock therapy bump steer delete kit. Those are Keller ball joints, and you can see how much I had to clearance the mud guard or mud scraper, whatever you want to call it. I did trim right here so that my steering had full turn. This is what I did, not a how-to video. I got their non-greasable bushings from Titan. Got those from S3 as well. Looks real good. You can see I shredded a blue rag, doing some die grinding. Better than a finger. But yeah, we're done with this side. I've got to tighten up the jam nuts and stuff once I align the machine, but that's about as far as I can take it till I get the other side down and get the machine back on the ground. Alright, so I had kind of a hard time pulling the last axle off. I ended up welding a plate to my axle cup and pulled it off that way with my traditional slide hammer. But a buddy of mine recommended this Super ATV axle puller, and I thought I'd just video. This is live. I do have it tightened up. I'll kind of show you that in a minute. Well, I guess I can show you now. All it is it's a ring that goes all the way around, and they give you a bunch of bolts to tighten up to the cup. And then this guy right here is the slide pull. So we'll see how it works. I mean, it's nothing fancy or anything, but it's kind of designed for this. So I'm hoping this this kind of works. So we'll see. I already see it sliding off, so I either don't have my bolts tight or something, so I'll loosen them up and retighten. Well, I can tell you that that's a lot easier than welding it on, even with having to redo some stuff. Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna have to leave them a pretty good review. And as you can see, I'm missing 3 of the bolts and still had enough to grab it. Yeah, that's a 10. I like that. Okay, I wasn't going to film this, but in case anybody wants to know, we're going to change the front diff oil. This is the fill plug. Just going to take this guy out. Fully expect this to be milky, by the way. Usually is. Absolutely don't need a pan this big. There's the drain plug right underneath here. Alright, I got some shit in here or something. Just gonna bang this in there. Okay. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, that is the correct color. That's a good thing. We got some little bit of metal. See if I can show you this. Just a little bit. It's not metal, it's just sludge. Build up. That's normal. I'm not worried about that at all. Alright. Well, we're going to fill the diff before I forget. I'm just using this AMSOIL powertrain fluid. It's synthetic. Used it in all my machines, never had an issue. Comes with this super easy tip. You can literally just, squeeze it in there until it starts weeping out that hole. Or I just have this cheap little transfer pump. I'll just, pump it in and be done with it. So we'll try that. Here we go. All right, if the little seal on the top of the container doesn't kick your ass like it did me, straw goes right in the bag. Literally stick this right in the fill hole, and you're just going to pump. Eventually you'll see fluid going in there, and you're just going to pump until she starts coming out the top. There it is. She's starting to weep out. Super important you don't overfill it or force it. If a little bit drips out and gets onto your pan or your skid plate, so be it. Not a big deal. I think this will be the last time I use this this bolt, because it's all boogered up in here. Like I said, I change my fluid every season, sometimes more, depending on how much mud my wife likes to find. All right, quick little shot of my existing A-arm on the passenger side. I had previously said it was bent. It's actually cracked about 3/4 of the way around the joint. That would be the joint where it hits the frame. And the cracks, you know, in the powder coat, but you've got to understand that powder coat wouldn't crack like that if there wasn't some movement in that joint. So that's the stuff you kind of want to keep an eye out for, and you start seeing that, it's time to replace the part, in my opinion. So here it is, all finished up. Got both sides done. Got the winch back on. Got it all aligned. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the kit. We're gonna move to the back next. Still waiting on the rear radius rods. I can't speak. But anyway, once those come, we'll get that stuff on. Thanks. Here's a quick little alignment job. I just put my alignment bars on each wheel, found the center line of the machine, adjusted the tie rods so that the distance from center line at the front and back of the tire was 0. And then I went ahead and towed in the tires in the front, about a 1/4 inch on each side, so a total of a 1/2 inch toe in. That's just what I run. Then it was a matter of the bump steer elimination kit. Shock Therapy's got a great video on how to do it. I just was able to adjust mine all the way up, the tie rods that is, so that the toe-in was the same at ride height as it was at full droop. I'm kind of excited to see how this impacts the ride.